Hi there! Today at Garfin's Creation, we'll be making this eggless fruit cake. This rich and moist cake is packed with the warmth of the spices and the sweetness of the dry fruits and peels. These sides are great for gifting as well. So let's start with the recipe. So here are all the ingredients needed for this recipe today. I'll also be putting the entire recipe in the description box below. We'll begin by sieving the dry ingredients first. This is 1½ cup of maida, all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and this is 1 teaspoon of spice powder. I'll put the recipe for the spice powder in the description box below. You will just sieve all the dry ingredients now and also mix it well. So these are all the dry ingredients. Next, these are the soaked peels. I'll put the link for the recipe on how to soak these peels in rum. So just to drain the excess liquid out from the peels that was soaked in the rum, I just kept it in the siever. And once it's drained, I'll be using 7 tablespoons of this. This mixed peel contains tutti frutti raisins and orange and papaya peels as well. This is 7 tablespoons after getting drained, and into it I'll be adding 1 tablespoon of the flour that we had just mixed. This will prevent the peels from sinking when it's being baked. Just add the 1 tablespoon of flour and mix it, and we'll keep it aside for some time. For the wet ingredients now, I have taken half a cup of butter. This is salted butter. If you are not using salted butter, you can just add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt into it. And this is a small can of condensed milk. It is approximate 3/4 cup. We will just whisk this for a few seconds till both the ingredients are well combined. Once this is mixed well, into this we'll be adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence and 1 tablespoon of orange rind. This is the orange skin that has been grated. Whenever oranges are in season, you can just grate the skin and keep it in the freezer, and you can use it in any of the dishes. We'll just mix in all that as well. And now I'll just add the flour and mix that also. Keep whisking the cake batter as you keep on adding the flour in 3 batches. We'll also be adjusting the consistency by adding some milk later. You can also use a spatula here instead of a whisk. Now lastly, adding the rest of the flour and mixing it once more. Christmas plum cake or fruit cake always have a dense cake batter. If the batter is too liquidy, the fruits and the peels will all sink down to the bottom of the cake pan. So now I'll just switch on to a spatula to mix the rest of the batter. All the ingredients used in this recipe are at room temperature. So now I'll be taking some milk and adding it into the batter. I'll be using a total of 5 tablespoons of milk for the entire recipe. We won't be adding all of it together. In place of milk, you can also use orange juice. I just added a little more milk and mixing it again. We do not want a runny batter. When you hold it, it just falls like a lump. So there is still little more milk left, which we'll be using it later to adjust the batter consistency. So here I have taken 1 cup of nuts. This is almond, cashew nuts and walnuts. We'll also be adding the fruit peels which we had mixed with the flour and kept. Now we'll be gently mixing it into the cake batter. Do not overmix the cake batter now. As the batter keeps on getting a little more thicker and difficult to mix, I'll be adding the rest of the milk here. So you can use approximate 5 to 6 tablespoons of milk in this batter. I have used a total of 5 tablespoons of milk in this recipe. So you can see the batter is quite nice, thick and dense. We will now just fill in the cake molds. Since we are making mini fruit cakes, these are 4 inches round cake tin. We'll be lining it with some butter paper, but first we'll just grease it well with some oil. You can also use butter to grease the cake tin. These are 3 cake tins that I'll be using. They're all of 4 inches round and they've got a little height. In place of 4 inches, you could use one single 8 inches round cake tin pan too. So now we will fill the batter into the cake tin. You can also use a weighing scale and measure and add the batter into the cake tin. We will just fill it halfway through. So I'm just adding the cake batter in equal portions in all the 3 cake pans. You can also use a weighing scale or just eyeball it and fill the cake pan just halfway through. Just smooth the top with a spoon and just tap it a few times just to release the air bubbles. The net weight of each cake after baking will be 250 grams each. An 8-inch cake pan will give you 750 grams of cake. So all the 3 cakes will be baked at 170 degrees centigrade for approximate 30 minutes. I'll be putting it in the middle rack of the oven with the lower heating coil on only. A larger cake would take approximate 35 to 45 minutes. While the cakes are getting baked, we'll make a sugar syrup. For that I have taken half a cup of hot water and added 2 tablespoons of sugar into it. I'll just mix it well so that the sugar dissolves. You can also keep this over the gas stove till the sugar melts. This is the same rum that we had drained the fruit peels. So I'll be adding 2 tablespoons of it into the sugar syrup. This we will use to moisten the cake once they are baked. Just mix it and keep it aside for some time. So now the cakes are baked and this took me approximately 29 minutes. Since they are small, they take lesser time. I'll just insert a skewer and just check it has come out clean. So these cakes are baked well. I will just place them on a cooling rack and place a cloth or a towel over it so that it cools out further. This way the cake won't get dried as it cools down. So then after 10 or 15 minutes, while the cakes are still warm, we will add the sugar syrup over it. This sugar syrup can be used over the next week too. If you're storing the cake for a longer time, just in between you can just moisten the cake again with the same syrup. This will not just only make the cake moist, but will also add extra flavor to it. If you keep doing this 2-3 times, it adds extra flavor to the cake. Once again, I'll just cover the cake and let it cool completely now. Now the cakes are cooled down, we can just unmold them now. These cakes have already left the sides of the cake pan. You can also run a knife all round through the cake pan and then release it. These cake size are just not easy to bake but also ideal size in gifting. After they are cool, you can wrap them in cling film and also decorate them further if you are adding it to your hampers or gifting it to someone. You can cut the cake right away and enjoy it, but I prefer putting them in cling film and keeping it in the fridge for at least 1 day. This way, the cake will not only get matured, but also adds a good flavor and you get good slices from it. Cold cake slices well when kept in the fridge. You can keep this cake in the fridge for longer days too if you do not want to eat them immediately. Just cling wrap all the 3 cakes and keep it in the fridge for just a day. And when you want to have these cakes, you can just slice them and let the cake come to normal temperature and then serve them. Or once out of the fridge, you can just slice the cake and place it in the microwave for a few seconds. A little warm cake tastes even much better. I'll just place them in the fridge for a day and the next day I'll slice and show you. So now the next day the cakes, I've just got them out from the fridge. So now let's cut and see how we get good pieces out of it. This fruit cake is nice and dense. So you just need a sharp serrated knife, that is a bread knife, to cut it into slices. You will see how moist and flavorful the cake gets the next day. You can check out the fruits and the nuts are well spread in the cake. If you want a darker version of the same cake, you can add caramel syrup into this cake while mixing the batter. I'll put the recipe for the caramel syrup too in the description box below. So now go ahead and make this delicious cake for your friends and families. and for adding it into your hampers as well. I hope you do like this recipe as well. Thanks for watching and do subscribe to Garfin's Creation. See you again in the next recipe. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.